But we're going to start with Sid Lowe, who's joining us now. We're not going to waste any time. We'll try to get the definitive word on Lionel Messi. Sid, I didn't do anywhere near as much reporting as you did, so I'm going to chuck a lot of questions at you. My first instinct was that this was a power play from Messi, and then he was going to stay at the club. So I'm just going to throw questions to you. If Messi wanted to leave Barcelona, why didn't he go out and simply notify the club and exercise his clause in early June? Or did he only decide he wanted to leave after that? Did he only decide he was unhappy after that?
Right. Well, I mean, part of the answer we have in Messi's interview after he agreed to stay, and I think the nature of that interview in itself is extraordinary and helps to answer part of this question in so much far as you're saying. I assume, by the way, that when you say a power play, you mean that he never intended to go. He just wanted to shift the balance of power within the club while continuing.
Yeah, he would have been happier staying than going. Put it that way.
Right. Okay. I think when you listen to the interview, I think I've never heard a player stay at a club and do an interview like that. Never heard anything like it. You know, you talk about acrimonious splits, it's an acrimonious reuniting of Messi and the club. And I think if your intention was to stay, even if it was to shift the balance of power, I'm not sure that fits the idea that this was a power play. Not least the body language as well as what he actually said. Anyway, specifically in terms of the question, part of the answer is given in that interview, in that he says that we were in competition. Imagine, I mean, he doesn't say this, but imagine the storm, imagine the trouble had he said this during competition. Imagine that Barcelona lose 8-2 to Bayern Munich. I mean, it's crazy, isn't it? I mean, it's impossible. But imagine Barcelona lose 8-2 to Bayern Munich after Messi has said, I want to leave. There is absolutely no doubt that the narrative surrounding that scoreline is that Messi has ruined this season. That Messi is the one responsible for that, because right at a time when they were competing for everything, he came and said this. There is another part of the answer in Messi's interview in which Messi says, I told them repeatedly. So in other words, he would argue, well, I did inform them, I just hadn't done this formally and officially. And perhaps the argument there would be that he was foolish enough to trust the word of the president. And he actually uses the phrase, the president broke his word. He said, I could go, let's not talk about this now, we'll deal with it at the end of the season.
Okay, but sorry, Sid, this isn't just him, right? This is, Messi has a dad who looks after his interests.
Yes,
they have lawyers who advise him. If your heart is set on going, given how well you know Bartomeu, given how well you know that this is a club whose president presumably sanctioned or gave approval to have a media or a social media company go and manipulate social media against certain people, given everything you know about everything that happened with Bartomeu over the last few years, are you really going to trust him? Are you really going to trust his word and not get something in writing?
Well, of course you don't trust the word, which is why I think eventually they did the Bureau fact. But I think those other elements of it are still valid. I think it is still valid to believe that you took them on their word, not least because I suspect that deep down, Messi probably thought they would quite like me to go. And so long as it's my fault, they will let it happen. Even if it means negotiate something, they will let it happen. I would suggest as well that it's perfectly plausible that the legal advice that they took to make this happen didn't come until later. I also think there's a couple of other elements, which is that who knows if Messi says he wanted to do this all season, he kept telling them, but I wonder if he was emotionally putting this off, and then the Bayern Munich thing said, right, that's it. That really is it now. So maybe he didn't exercise it because he wasn't sure, but the Bayern Munich decision finally forced him into that position. There's another question which I think is significant here. And obviously we will never fully know quite how significant. But on the 10th of June, which is the deadline for saying this, bear in mind that Messi wants to go. Why? Because he wants to win the Champions League before he ends his career at Barcelona, because he's desperate. He's genuinely desperate to win it. He's won 1 in 9. So he's thinking, how do I best do this? I go to Manchester City. On the 10th of June, Manchester City weren't in next year's Champions League or the year after's Champions League. And so if Manchester City really is your exit strategy, I'm not saying it's the only one, but it's the one that you believe is the best way out, the best way to resolve this. At that point on the 10th of June, that's not an exit strategy for you. And so I think that's part of it as well. Now, none of this is to say that Messi hasn't handled this badly and that there aren't some flaws in both the argument and also, of course, in the framework that he used, the mechanism that he used, the path that he tried to follow to get out. But I do think that there has been so much said, so much done, and the response to his saying that I think we can take at face value that absolutely he did want to leave. I don't see this as a power play, not least because if it was a power play, I'm not sure what he's gained now. And I'm not sure what the necessity of a power play was.
All right, well, I'll tell you
what, in March anyway.
But I'll tell you what potentially he gained. He can basically name the next Barcelona president. And he can name...
I think he could have done that anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's a fair point.
But what about the manager as well? Where does this leave Ronald Koeman?
So
Ronald Koeman. We're not sure that Ronald Koeman even wants Messi there.
No, I think that's quite right, and I doubt that Koeman wants Messi there. Koeman himself said, "I only want players who want to be here." I think Koeman, in terms of the way that he will be judged, may well be thinking, if Messi goes, I get cut a little bit of slack. I don't think it's quite as much of a cop-out option as that. I also think there's another thing, and I get to do it the way I want to do it. I construct this team the way I want to do it, not conditioned by Messi, because it's worth asking these questions about Messi's culpability, at the very least in the creation of a culture at the club. And it's curious because, you talk about, and this fits with Koeman, it fits with the managers, it fits with the signings, and it fits with the president. There is this curious contradiction, which is that Messi doesn't really want the responsibility of leading the club. But, of course, he does want the club led in the direction he wants it led in.
Yeah,
so in a way, indirectly, because there's this kind of circle of people trying to interpret and second-guess Messi and do things the way that help Messi. And there's this phrase that gets used a lot, that Bartomeu consistently tried to make Messi happy. Well, by doing that, he's made him unhappy.
Well,
so this is this kind of contradiction at the heart of the whole thing, that Messi is partly culpable of building this culture, but it's ultimately what's meant that the relationship between him and the club has broken down.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN+.